So welcome everyone. I'm Catherine Preston. I'm one of the programmers for the Philadelphia Film Society. I'm really thrilled that everyone can join us. I'm so excited about this shorts program. I think it's so excellent, and thank you everyone for joining. I always think it's kind of funny. It's like, you know, COVID has separated us in a lot of ways, but an interview like this wouldn't always be possible given where we are all in the world. So thank you for joining us. You know, a common theme that sort of is prevalent in this program is grieving, whether it's for an animal, a person, or just an idea of something, as well as identity and self-reflection. One of the things I admire so much about this program is just like the absolute diversity in terms of animation style. So for anyone that wants to jump in, I would love to know what that creative process was like as you were exploring these really personal themes.
Hi, I am JJ, and I co-directed and made PILAR.
And I'm on the same team as well. And we're missing our third partner, studio partner, who couldn't be here today, but yeah. We made PILAR, which is a hand-painted animation film.
The main character is called PILAR, and she lives in a very desolate city with her friend, and she's trying to escape to the wilderness, and there's an intruder in the city at one point, and she shoots it down, and I think that's sort of the grieving moment for her, like she's losing a part of the wilderness outside, but eventually this creature eventually is her opportunity to transform and go outside, and she is finding this strength inside of her to make a choice to go into the unknown. And for us, it was a sort of exploration of how a person is in a situation that is known to her, and definitely trying to find a way to get out of her situation, even if it's just a relationship or a family matter, just trying to find her inner strength.
So you were saying that it was all hand painted. What was that process like?
Well, it's like any animation, it's a lot of work. For us, the three of us are illustrators, and we wanted to make an animation that would work for us. So we knew how to paint, and we knew a bit about stop motion. And a painted animation is just, I think, like working with puppets, you just do frame per frame, and you paint every frame again and again and again. So I guess it's tiresome, but at the same time, it's very satisfying to see that we actually use paint, and it's very like handmade. And we chose this kind of technique, especially because he just really liked to paint, and it's very emotional looking sort of technique.
How long did that take from start to finish?
Well, this whole project took us about 5 years, but the actual painting just went in like in between gaps. We did other things as well, but it was just the three of us in a sort of unnatural like lighting, like TL, like lights, and in the dark, painting every day, hopefully getting like 8 frames a day finished. So it took us a long while from start to finish, but yeah, we're really happy with the results.
Yeah, no, it looks beautiful. 5 years, wow.
I'm Élodie Dermange, and I made the movie Inès. That was my graduation movie. Okay, so my movie is not a biography, so it's not a story that I lived myself, but I lived something similar. So I lived in an abortion, and when I was in that situation, I found out really difficult to make a choice, because there is a lot of representation about positive representation. There is not at all positive representation of that thing, and it was something that I really missed at that moment in my life. So when I lived that experience and I finished with that experience, I decided that one day I need to make something from that and to give this point of view, this positive point of view about the choice and about this thin and sensitive moment in life. So yes, this is how it started.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Katelyn. I made MIZUKO with Kira Dane, who could not be here because she's in Japan right now. Yeah, I can speak a little bit to our process. We also did, our film was mixed media, so some of it was also using hand-painted frames, which of course is incredibly time consuming, and some of it was also using stop motion. And then we also actually shot on Super 8 film for the rest of it, so it was kind of combining all of these mediums. And, you know, I think to answer also the question with grief, this entire process was focused, and it was about Kira's own experience having an abortion and kind of exploring ways how we don't allow space for grief of abortion in the United States. And she's half Japanese, so she started looking into different rituals and Japanese Buddhist rituals of grieving abortions in Japan. And so these two ideas of having an abortion in New York but being Japanese, we kind of used to motivate the different mediums. So the hand-painted watercolors were kind of representative of her childhood memory in Japan. And then this like gritty stop motion tearing paper was kind of like confronting your own body and having an abortion in New York. So we used these different and very intentionally very different mediums to reflect this grieving process, I guess.
Yeah. No, I loved the mixed media. It was really fascinating, and it was just such an interesting approach to, you know, going through that process, mixing like, you know, two different cultures, you know, it's just, yeah, it was really beautiful.
Jack, I made a brontosaurus. Well, it started when this girl was blowing me off, and then I was in a cafe in Union Square feeling really bad, and I just wrote it really quickly. And I just thought, well, I'll just do it really quick, and I'll not think about how good the drawings are, and I won't labor over, you know, I'll get it right, but I won't obsess, because I wanted to get it done very quickly. And you know, you notice that it's sort of like this feel of you're going through someone's notebook because the pages are turning. I know no one else has seen it, but so it's stop motion, cut out, and it's all charcoal, pencil, and I only had one shot to shoot it because I had to do every background in the notebook and then do every drawing I had on the wall. And then I only had one chance to shoot it because of the style, you know, how the characters are uncrumpling and crumpling. You know, I only had one chance to do that because you destroy the drawing in the process. So I was like, I only have one chance to do this whole thing. And, you know, and if I screw it up, I screw it up. And that's why there's so many things in it that, you know, if I was doing it another way, I would redo, but I just had to keep all the mistakes in there because that's kind of how I set out to do it. And that's how the style came about, I guess.
Did it end up going really quickly then? From start to finish?
Yeah, I did it in about a month, which everyone else are real animators, and I know it takes many years to do the level that they're working at, but this is very crude and very cartoony, and you know.
I mean, yeah, it just felt like an incredibly real human experience, mistakes and all, you know. Yeah,
and charcoal pencils are great for making mistakes look intentional. I think they actually advertise that on the box. But really, they do. Yeah, and in terms of the grieving thing, yeah, I was making, this was during a period where I was making a movie about my dad's death, which I've been doing for 4 years and I'm still doing. It says best friend's death in the movie. That was because my producers freaked out and we're just like, just change it in case we get in trouble for this whole subject matter. And, you know, because it does get a little challenging because I'm talking about having a relationship with an assistant of mine. And as you know, in the movie, that professional relationship only lasted a day. And once it turned romantic, we ended the professional relationship. But especially with the climate, especially last year when it was made, that's very touchy subject matter. And so it was all, it felt very staticky and very kind of, should I be doing this? And, you know, I went ahead and did it, and sure enough, no one touched it. You guys are the first people to, you know, risk programming, I guess.
Cool.
But yeah, so it was a period where I was grieving my father. I was grieving my own, like where I was in life, because I was very, I wasn't in a good place in terms of battling addiction and food problems and all this kind of stuff. And then I meet this girl who's battling similar things. And then it becomes grieving the loss of her when she becomes less interested in me, the more interested I become in her. So yeah, it's about, everything I do is about grief, I guess.
Do you find that making a movie about it helps you process it in a different way?
Yeah, it does. But then it brings up all sorts of other issues while you're doing it. One of those issues being what the actual people are going to think of it once it's out there. So it's it helps you in one way and then it hurts you in another way.
Has she seen it?
No, but we've talked about it, and she says she'll be okay with it, but there's certain things that I included from her life that I grapple with. Was that okay? Because that's not my information to divulge, although I did divulge it. So, and a lot of it's fictionalized, and I skewed certain things. So hopefully she'll understand that it turned into a character. It's not, and of course the names are changed, which is something I learned the hard way. You have to do when you're making autobiographical stuff. So she says she's cool with it. She's cool with the idea of it, and she's excited. But she has not seen it yet.
Interesting.
So I'm Alexandra, and I'm the director of the film Tai, which is an animation black and white in graphite powder, and I'm really connected to printmaking techniques. And this is not printmaking at all, but the way of think about the drawing is really connected like lino cut or wood cut, because when you make a line, we are open light, not putting shadow. So every draw that I do, afterwards I invert it digitally, and so I'm not always working in the final result. I need to think in the opposite way. When I draw, for example, an eye, all around is black and the middle is white, and then I scan it and invert, and then the things get more sense after that process. And this is something that you are used to work when you work in some printmakings of some techniques of printmaking. And I started to use graphite powder that, you know, I like the fingerprints on the paper, that it helps, it really helped me to have a environment more oniric, like a daydreaming thing, when you have like that smudge line. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it really well, but when you put the dirtiness of graphite powder, when it's white, it's like a kind of a light that glows around, and that helps me a lot to create an environment for this film, because if it was like completely plain, like black and white, I think that wouldn't, the technique wouldn't fit so much the story. Yeah, that's it.
And I'm definitely super curious to learn about your creative process. The animation style is so unlike many things that I've seen. It's so beautiful. And I'm also just fascinated with just visually, the big head, tiny body, big body, tiny head. I just love that concept. I would love to know how that came to be, and just sort of, yeah, like identity, just figuring yourself out and finding someone else and connecting, and also the grieving of the dog. You know, any of that if you want to dive in.
Okay, so let me try to find the way to start because before of this film, I was directing another film with a friend of mine. We were co-directing, and that time, I thought about the idea of cooperation, you know, and I think it started when we were making the film. There was another thing. We were making a documentary, and at that time, I think we need to have a lot of respect for the people that we are represent on the documentary. And it was an animated documentary, so I felt the need of drawing something that is not connected to reality, you know, because if I represent someone in that exists in real life like that, I feel that people wouldn't enjoy so much. So I started to create these characters more dark, more ugly, but not, they are not so ugly, they are cute anyway, but well, just I'm trying to understand how to start, because it was so many things that helped me to make that film and wrote that story. And one thing that it's always in my mind, it's how far you should go in the relationships and your work, everything. How should you adapt to the other person, or how far we can go on that, or should we stand with our ideas, with our convictions? And that game of, okay, I need to adapt to the other person, or I need to be like I am, it's something that it's always in my mind. And I started to create this some characters that were completely different, but if they were together they would complement. And so this was the one of the things that made me make this film. And there is also the dog that it dies on the beginning, because I also believe that for us to learn, to grow, to everything, we need to deal with darker things. Otherwise, we got completely in the same level. So the death of the dog was like the trigger. It's something fertile to make all the story grows. This is not personal, because I don't have a, well, I have a normal body, I have a normal head, and my friends too, and my all the people around me are normal, but still I think it's supposed to represent the feeling that we all have, to hide our the things that we think that it's an handicap, to hide our como é que se diz defeito? Flaws? Flaws, to hide our flaws. And so we all feel that, and we all feel that we need to have to fit in something, in society, in a relationship, in the work, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. So this was like a visual game to express all those feelings that I think are more universal than personal.
And I'm Bernardo. I wrote and directed Hudson Geese. Geese, it's about a goose. He is the one grieving, and I guess I can spoil it. People have seen the movie, right? At this point, like this Q&A is after the movie.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's for the people that haven't seen it in this Q&A. It's from the point of view of the geese that Sully, who landed the plane on the Hudson, the geese that he killed when they crashed into a flock geese, and it's from the point of view of this goose. And he's grieving for himself and for the flock that he was a part of, and for his wife, geese mate for life, which was something very human that I discovered. And
I didn't know that either.
yeah, and the movie's also in some ways grieving for like you know, a planet before it was touched, you know, untouched by humans in a way. I think the initial feeling or emotion that I felt when I think it was something about the phrase of like, you know, they like killed an entire flock of geese, or something about like that, of like an entire flock went down and no one ever talks about it. It brought up a certain like carelessness and thoughtlessness and like self-centeredness that I was like, oh, I want to write about this because it seems emblematic of something in the way that a lot of people, a lot of us live our lives, and the way humans go about in the world, where I don't know if a lot of thought is paid to the people around us and to the animals around us and to the world around us. And it sounds so silly talking about it like that, but the movie is a little silly and hopefully funny and hopefully good. And I can also speak to the other side of it. Oh, you guys were laboring so hard on your movies, which all sound really, really excellent and good and interesting. This was the first one, the first movie I made where I didn't animate it myself. So I was working with, it was done for FX for their program Cake, which airs Thursday night. I don't know the time, but look it up, it's somewhere. And
It's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu, Hulu on FX, FX on Hulu. And so I worked with a studio in Atlanta, and I wrote it all, I storyboarded everything, did all the designs, and I'd send it to them and they would animate it. And it was a very sort of just like funny learning experience of like, oh, this isn't coming back, like these aren't my lines. And it was very sort of an interesting process of letting go, I guess. It was kind of like, okay, let me collaborate instead of try to have full control over everything. But I'm very happy with how it came out.
Well, I think that's pretty much all the time we have. I know, thank you for bearing with me in this weird and crazy time. It's not the most fluid experience, but I appreciate it. Again, I'm just so excited that you all could join us, and I really love this program so much. It was sort of my baby, if you will. So super thrilled to have each and every one of you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you again for joining.
Yeah.